Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. I am excited tonight. I'm excited this evening because we have yet another phenomenal woman, a phenomenal woman in business, a phenomenal Christian woman in business, because that's what we're all about over here in our faith and finance community. We are all about doing it big and doing it God's way. So I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be able to present to some of you and introduce to others Miss Tara Alexander with the Frontline Corp. But before we do, I just want to thank God for all of you, our community members. You have been engaging, you have been listening, you guys have been supporting this wonderful, wonderful spotlight that we're doing this week for Women's History Month. But you know what? We're going to continue to do this because this is something that we used to do in our community, and we really need to get back to it because you all need to know. You all need to know these powerhouses that are out here doing it big and doing it God's way. So on tonight, I just want to, of course, present to many of you and introduce to some of you because you may not have ever heard of this wonderful, wonderful spiritual soul. And her name is Tara Alexander. I'm not going to steal her thunder. I'm going to let her tell us more about you, about herself with the Frontline Group. But listen, it doesn't stop there. There's so many other things as we're finding out through these interviews. We're finding out so many other things through our interviews about our mentees. So on to you, Tyra. Tell us all about you, what you do,
Goodness.
and how God has made such a great impact in your business and in your life.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for inviting me to be a part. I have admired you for many years, and I thank God for people like you who keep me inspired and hyped at the same time. So thank you so much for this invite, and to all of the beautiful women I've had a chance to go back and peek through the interviews. And I'm just excited about just being a part of the women that you're interviewing, first of all. And so for those of you who I don't know, and you know what I'm learning, Sean, is that though we know people, we don't know people.
Right.
Think we know enough, we don't know everything. So sometimes, because I'm usually involved in ministry within the city in some kind of way, what happens is those who are in church, they don't realize that besides preaching or singing, what have you, that I do have a business and I do own a business outside of that. And maybe, these kind of interviews help us to highlight that. But I'm actually the CEO of the Frontline Corporation, which I own in conjunction with my husband. I've been having my business since 1999, but I've been singing professionally since 1987.
Wow.
I've been actually in this space of music and production for many years. So I'm actually I actually lead our company, and what I do is, of course, I sing, but I own my company. We own our production company, our label. I actually help book my husband as well. He's a professional drummer, and then besides that, we do a lot of private events and things in that nature to bring positive music to the world. And that's what I love to do. So anywhere from here to France or to Russia or wherever we're going, or wherever we've been, it's always been about empowering communities, rather through music, or the other side of my company through program development and grants and things like that. So we're all about production, I guess, some ways in music, then other ways in books, or in helping businesses and nonprofits. So I love what we do. This bringing believers to the front line, bringing believers to the front line, the Frontline Corporation. So I'm glad to talk about that, and got a couple other things that we do in light of that. But basically, that's it.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm super hyped because I want to start with the music part. Can we start with the music part?
Okay.
Because I absolutely love your voice.
Thank
And
you.
I love the inspiration of your singing and how you just bring the fullness of music to my soul when I hear you actually. So let's start with the music part. The music, how awesome is that to actually travel the world singing? Tell us a little bit about that.
I from a little girl, actually, I saw myself. They said, pay attention to your kids, because when I was 7, and I'm picking it all the way back. When I was
Okay.
7, I went to school one day. I was in second grade at L- um, Lafayette School on Carrollton. It
Okay.
was, and I was in second grade. And when I went to school, I saw a community choir, the Gospel Soul Children, singing at school. They had a special, you have the cultural events, and I actually saw the Soul Children singing. And I went home that day. I walked home. I walked to my grandparents' house from school, and I said, you know what? When I get big, I'm gonna join that choir.
Wow.
And I remember 7 years old. My grandfather was 6 foot something. I came home and told him that, and he said, "Who you?" And I said, "Yeah, me." And he said, "You could do anything."
Wow.
And I remember that moment. And prophetic is, God was working prophetically even then. And 6 years later, that choir director came to work for my church.
Wow.
And needless to say, when I saw who he was, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm 13." And really, he asked me to, maybe another year later, he asked me to sing in the choir and lead. And I've been singing really ever since. And then professionally, I started when I was 18, because Marva Wright was my school secretary. She wasn't
Wow.
she wasn't a singer at the time, but
Yes.
I get in trouble. Well, I didn't gonna say get in trouble, but I used to almost get in trouble because I didn't get in trouble. But I would, for making flyers for her gigs while I was at school.
Okay.
I've been in
Wow.
I've been in business, so I did all the behind the scenes of her business.
Yes.
She was just starting, and
Mm.
worked in her office and that kind of thing. And so that's kind of where I got my start with learning about conventions and conferences outside of the church, because I knew the church, and I was excited. And so my first European gig, actually, I went to sing background. I really didn't go to sing background. I went because she was going, and I wanted to see how it was to work, behind the scenes. I was
Yes.
so, and I was behind the scenes, kind of like just helping her because I was excited to be there. Last 3 nights, she asked me to open her show, and by the end of the third night, they asked me to come back as a headliner at in
Wow.
Paris. And I was 21 when I came back.
Wow.
I started doing Europe, and I really love it, and I've always loved it. But my career kind of took a turn when I've been saved since I was 11, but
Hmm.
my devotion to God and wanting to see change through my music never stopped. The older I got, the more I wanted to see change through my music, and so God started showing me ways that was going to happen one day. And so, and I know I got believers, women who are believers on the line. And so one year, he asked me to put it down, and he asked me to put my career down, and he would resurrect it.
My goodness.
And I did just that, and I did just that for a moment. It was the hardest year of my life financially, be honest with you.
Hmm.
And I put it down, not necessarily to end it, but
Right.
down as I knew it. And
Yes.
so he has done a great thing with allowing me now to continue my music, to not just continuing it, but to be able to bring positive music into the world,
Mm.
to do it with my husband and my daughter on stage with me.
Wow.
When you say what it's like to travel around the world, I say it's healing, it
Mm.
is ministry, it
Wow.
is um, just a little bit of bringing heaven to earth, but knowing that that is the purpose. Wow, I was put here. So I'm really grateful for that. So that's how I feel.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Talk about being able to truly fulfill your purpose in the earth, right?
Yeah.
When God speaks over us and has a purpose for us, that you have just spoken the words of how God literally take you from a child
Mm.
and into your thrust you into your purpose by connections, by different things that you went through, and then just to be able to travel the world to touch people all over. That in itself is amazing. That in itself is amazing.
Yeah.
Now tell us also, Tara, just how deep are you into ministry?
You know what? I love, and I will be honest with you, I'm connecting. the teaching, and all of that. I remember one time being on the road. I was actually in Switzerland, and I talked about this. I have a book called Love Without Walls, and in my book, I talk about this. Was I was went to Switzerland. There's a place called Zermatt, Switzerland, and it's right in the Swiss Alps. And
Mm,
I am there on a trip. And when I get there, Sean, I am, just it's beautiful. I mean,
mm,
it is rich. It is a place, it is a resort, it is rich. And I'm
mm.
staying at a hotel there. And the man tells me that there's somebody who had come to see me and they hitchhiked to see me sing.
Wow.
Now, you know, I'm from New Orleans. And I'm like, yeah, right. Right. Okay. And then he said, no, Tyra, I'm serious. The person hitchhiked to see you sing. And I'm getting to your question.
Mhm.
I talked to the lady, but she could barely speak any English. And of course I couldn't speak anything she could speak. And so we're kind of talking, and I realized, oh, she did. Well, the train stopped running, and so she had to hitchhike to get there. And she had a friend that was actually another singer who was opening for me. So she was able to stay with her that night. So long story,
Wow.
as we were talking, I was so fascinated at this time by cathedrals. I loved European cathedrals, so I wanted to go see the church. And I said, "Oh, when is the church? What time does the church open so I can go to the church, and whatever?" And she said, "Oh, the church is closed." I said, "The church is closed." I said, "Okay, yeah, but what day? Because I'm gonna be here a couple of days, And she said, "No, no, the church is closed."
Mm,
I said, "What you mean the church is closed? This is this is early '90s." She said, "It's been closed for like, I think she said 2 years."
mm.
She said, "Because there are not many Christians here, so
Wow.
the attendance, people didn't go to church." And I'm like, "What?" I said, "Well," because she said she was a believer. That's why she came. She wanted to hear me do
Right.
gospel at the end of my show. It was a jazz show, but I did gospel at the end. And I said, "Well, where do you go and worship?" Because I'm a church girl. Where do you go?
Right. Right.
And she said, "Who, me?" She said, "Oh, I go to the mountains and worship."
Wow.
And it blew my mind because it was definitely not something I had even thought about. And so the next day, the young lady who opened for me that day, she actually got into a ski accident and really got hurt. And this lady who I didn't know, young lady who I didn't know, who
Hmm.
had searched me out because she said she found out I was a believer and she wanted to
Hmm.
hear. She and I ended up praying for this
Mm,
other woman. So when we say ministry,
mm.
God had been dealing with me about ministry for a very long time, and using the music or using the gift of writing or whatever it is
Yes.
in a place. I believe that when you say how deep, I believe that God has used me in a ministry without walls.
Wow.
And so I do, I can say that I have pastored, and people could pastor Tara, that's true. But I think that God uses us differently. He uses me on
Absolutely.
Broad Street. He uses me
Absolutely.
in Paris, or what I'm saying. So he uses me in
Yes.
different places, and so I've seen the word of God go forth. I've shared the word of God. Of course, I do preach and teach, but as well as sing, as well as have the great privilege of praying for people around the world. So, and even seeing the prophetic, yeah, come to fruition.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm in ministry on different levels, but I think
My
part of my
goodness.
ministry is without walls.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you are sharing this, Tara, because especially for many women who are watching this and who will watch this are women in ministry.
Hmm.
And we need to hear more stories like this because ministry is more than just a microphone.
Yeah.
Ministry is more than just standing behind a pulpit
Hmm.
or a lectern. Ministry is touching the lives of people, it's meeting the needs of people. And we're all called to different types and shapes and sizes of ministry. And so, what would you say to someone who hasn't truly accepted their purpose? It may not look like the a per se picture of what we think ministry is, what would you say to that woman?
I think I would say, what would it look like if you don't do that thing that's in your heart?
Mm,
I think, what would it look like? I look at you and I was thinking about you with financial literacy, and I'd heard that word. And be honest with you, money management, I didn't really have an understanding totally of what that meant. But the more I get to know you, the more I see you, whatever. And then I read something said, what is the cost of financial illiteracy?
yes.
Illiteracy. And I think the same thing with ministry. What's the cost of people
Right.
not being in this place in music? What,
Absolutely.
what would happen if I would not have prayed with this lady in Switzerland? Or what
Mm,
would have happened if God hadn't positioned me there in an unconventional
absolutely.
way? But I still understood my purpose when I showed up.
Yes.
So I would say to any sister, any woman who out there who's thinking, well, maybe this doesn't look like it. The ministry of Jesus didn't look like it. It didn't
Yes.
look like what everybody else did.
Yes.
And I think the more we can, my husband really helped me with that, because he grew up, in a different environment. He grew up a Catholic boy and what have you. And so a lot of the ideas that I had about we can't do this or we can't do that, he didn't really have. And
Hmm.
so he began to show me, that God really was calling me. Before I even knew it, that God was really calling me to reach people. He may not have known everything I was going to do, but he
Hmm.
really saw it. He was like, "Nah, I think you are like evangelism, or you know what I'm saying." He looked
Right.
like that because he saw that it wasn't just about getting on stage. It was like I really cared about the people. But what's the cost of me working
Yes.
in those places, caring about people?
My
I can tell you
goodness.
story after story about people that I had
Yes.
the opportunity to minister to, that some people would have loved to even meet. But when I met them, God maybe had me tapped into their soul versus
Hmm. Absolutely.
cost of us not being in those places. That's what we need
Wow.
to think about. And if I don't show up, and if I don't
Mm.
be this person, then what happens to that community? What happens to those people? We rented a building on I remember some years ago before Champion Church started, we rented a building on for one night. We thought, Pastor Sean, just for one night. That was all, one night. That's what we thought. One night. Look, one night of refreshing.
Yes.
Real churchy with it. One night of
Right.
and at the end of the night, we had enough money for one more night, and so we did another Tuesday. But it was in a reception hall. It didn't look like anything I had ever done.
Mhm.
It didn't look like I had music and we ministered the word, and it was real simple. We ended up there on Broad Street for 12 years.
Wow.
And people were living in the abandoned school, and they were living in abandoned houses
My
and
goodness.
that kind of thing. And all of the people that we served got housed.
Wow. Oh my God. You're giving me goosebumps just
All of
thinking
the people
about.
got housing. Well, why is that? Well, what if it would have happened? Now, my preacher friends now, because I'm on the Pastor Sean show. I could tell the truth. My
Yes.
preacher friend
Yes, ma'am.
said it wasn't good enough. Said the building
Mm.
wasn't good enough. Said we needed something more traditional and that kind of
Wow.
thing. But what I found out was the people I was serving, the unchurched,
Yes.
and wait, the de-churched, the used to
Yes.
be churched,
Yes.
they didn't want to go into a traditional setting. So
Yes.
me being there in a circle on Broad Street really brought a lot of gravity to my family, kept our feet on the ground. They didn't
Yes.
know People didn't know nothing about no protocol or nothing like.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? They be, Tyra, I need some help.
Absolutely.
Help me, right? And
Just
it
raw
was just
ministry.
beautiful, just raw
Yes.
ministry. And my
Yes.
daughter right now, she
Mm.
talks about some of these things, and like she remembers these things. And it's like, man, some of the things that have happened, some of the miracles we've seen. What's the cost of us not being in place? I think it's too
Yes.
valuable for us to. But I would rather try and God have to shift me into the right place than not try and I never made a difference at all.
Amen. Oh my goodness. This interview, you got my eyes watering over here because when I think about the souls that
Mhm.
we touch, we don't, sometimes we don't realize
Yeah.
the importance of our call,
Mm.
right? We don't, sometimes we don't realize, let me not say call, let me say purpose, because every single person created by God has one. And every single day that we get up and leave our homes, God has a plan for our purpose for that day. And
Mhm.
so what you're telling me is you followed the Holy Spirit so that these people's lives literally could be changed forever. They will never ever forget your church on Broad Street. They won't.
We call it God on Broad.
Yes, I love it. I love it. But this is, and the thing is, you could have said, no, I don't want to do this. I just want to sing,
Mhm.
right?
I
Because
did.
sometimes we do that.
I
Sometimes
did.
sometimes we say no to God and then he brings it full circle. Like you said, he will shut you down for a year or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And until we realize, we hear what he's really saying to us. So
Mhm.
I'm just excited that you're even sharing this. Is just really bringing a whole different depth to this interview today.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of don't want to move on, but we're going to move on a little bit. And we're going to ask from the business standpoint of what you do. Give us a little background of it. How did you come up with the Frontline as a name?
Mm. Well, frontline, in music, we have this thing called backline, and that means all of our instruments and everything, the backline, And
Okay,
so
I'm
front
learning today.
frontline, when somebody said you bringing your own backline, they're talking about your own drums and your
Okay.
own, stuff that you need, your amps and what have you. So in 1999, my husband and I created this the business Frontline uh, because of backline, and we actually at that time we were only I was doing, well, let me say, in publicly, I was just doing music. But then I also had an entrepreneur program I started in 1998 that for kids, and it was supposed to, here we go. That's one of those things again. Had a dream on the sofa.
Okay.
Like, how God gonna give me the dream in the midst of, I was in the midst of foreclosure. How he gonna give me a dream about a business program and I'm in the midst of a mess, right? But that's God.
And that's when he does
That's
it.
when he does it. And he gave me
Yes.
this vision because I had a vision in 98 of showing kids, that I was showing kids how to create, how to make a job.
Wow.
And so I saw the shirts, the whole thing, and I had this dream. And I woke up from the dream and I said, I saw myself doing a camp for kids about business. And my husband was like, okay, okay. And so I did it. And so the next
Wow.
year, well, it wasn't called Frontline. It was at that time Young Christian Entrepreneurs. And
Yeah.
so we did that, and that year we got 12 kids, and then the next year, anyway, it kept growing. So in the midst of this, I had the courage to you need to formalize your own business, right?
Hmm.
And the Frontline Corporation was started,
Awesome.
and from that, the
What a unique
nonprofit grew.
name.
Yeah, the nonprofit grew and the for-profit grew at the same time.
All right. All right. So with Frontline, are you dealing mostly with program type situations? Tell us a little more about that.
Well, with the front line, that's the place for my music. We started out just with my music,
Okay.
with the music because we do a lot of, like, you have a lot of conventions come in town and things like that, and so you want to be able to negotiate. I wanted to be able to negotiate for my corporation at the same time.
Mhm.
Taxes, it was better for me to do it.
Right.
So anytime I'm singing, whether it's a church hires me to do something, or if it was just me doing a convention, whatever it was, I did it under the Frontline Corporation.
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
Tax
wait.
purposes.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say, over here in the business community, we learn about structure. We learn
Yes.
about what is the best structure for us. And
Mhm.
everybody has a different path that they are taking. And so, what would you say to someone? Because now, how long have you had the front line?
20 something years because it's 99. I
Wow.
started in 99.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
That's amazing. So, what would you say? What would be a good business advice for someone that you learned on your journey that may have been a something that you just did not know, but when you found out, it changed everything for
Okay. So let me say,
you?
number one, it was better for me to, I'm in the arts, and it was better for me to have a business doing art, um, a, a formal business doing art versus doing it under my name, because I looked at the
Mhm.
tax structure and it was totally different. That's number, to me, that was number one. That was why I created it. But I think looking back, what I would say from then to now is to make sure that because you do have this structure, that we are filing taxes every year and doing it in a way and working with a tax professional that understands that business taxes.
Right.
Because I think that if I would have known then what I know now,
Hmm.
that I would have been even in a better situation. I had the structure, but I
Right.
didn't have the supports around me that knew how to deal with the structure I created.
Absolutely. Now that is so, I'm so glad you brought that up because I love faith and I love finance.
Hmm.
And it is I'm so glad you brought that up because it's super important as a business how you file your tax return, right? And
Hmm.
how your business is portrayed in that in getting funding. And so that is so key. That is so key. I'm glad you brought that up as
Hmm.
well. And then of course, Tara is part of our business, our Ignite business community, our private community. We meet every single Tuesday at 7:30.
Yeah.
And I'm just so glad that you are a part of us, Tara. She brings a wealth of information. And just like many of our other mentees have said in their interviews, we all bring something to the table.
Yeah.
We're all in different stages of our businesses. And Tara knows things that we may not know because we haven't been around that many years, but it's just the maturity as well that you bring to our group. We love you and we enjoy that as well. So now I would also ask this question, and that question is you are a part of a wonderful women of faith group as well called Shiro. Can
Mhm.
you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know what? Going back to you say why we do what we do. Well, Shiro again was one of those situations that I thought it was just going to be. I wanted to put all my smart friends in the same room. That's simple as it is. You know how so many people, and you think like, oh my God, I love learning this from this, but they don't know each other. And my whole issue from going back to when I started my business from 98, 99, when I started the nonprofit as well as the for-profit, I had one issue that everybody in the church realm did not know that I had a business. And everybody in my business did not necessarily know that I was ministering in church.
Right.
A place to bring all of me together in one
How
spot.
awesome.
Right? And
Yes.
so Shiro, I just wanted to have my smart friends and I wanted to talk about Jesus and
Yes.
money and everything else at the same time and not have to give up anything else, you know what I'm saying? Not to compromise on anything because faith was the only way I was where I was. So Shiro was kind of created out of the ministry, all of that, between the ministry on Broad Street and
Yes.
just to have a safe place that we could kind of talk. And really it's a network. We know each other, we know what we do.
Yes.
I'm like you said, we're good at different things, and we actually use each other's businesses. We don't just say I know you do it.
Right.
Use each other's businesses. So
That is so important.
yeah, I don't
So
I
important.
trust you, I trust you to
Yes.
give you my business.
Yes. Mm.
And so we kind of did that. And so it's just been going on year after year. And so people say, well, that's one of my businesses. I'll be honest with you, Shiro is not a business for me. It is a place where I get fed.
Yes.
Somebody else. Hmm.
I tell you, this was my second year being able to go to Shiro. I came to your Shiro conference a long time ago. I think we were on Aretha Castle Haley. You were at a particular event place there, and it was phenomenal. And I just went away so full, just spiritually, just feeling like, wow, I was in the right room. You know, how sometimes as women, we will go to events where we really don't know anyone and we'll feel like I gotta get out of here. Right?
Yes.
I'm not feeling this vibe, right? And
Right.
so, but I came and it was so heartwarming and I got fed so well spiritually. And so when I had the chance to come a few months ago, I was like, Oh my goodness. I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait. And so you guys had it virtually as well as in person, which was so wonderful, kind of a hybrid thing. So I said, "Oh, these women are savvy here." But there was
Necessity,
so much
necessity.
knowledge. Just like you said, there was so much knowledge in the room,
Yeah.
right? I learned so much on the classes virtually, hearing all the speakers. I just couldn't get enough. I had my notebook was full, okay? My notebook were full. And what I loved about it, everyone was so genuinely passionate about what they were teaching or about what they were sharing. It was, listen, as we say in our community, no gatekeeping over here. There was no gatekeeping. Like, and it was so empowering and motivating. It was like a breath of fresh air, right? Because it's just a different feel when you're around people who feel the same as you,
Yeah.
and are passionate about the things that you're passionate about, and first and foremost, passionate about God. So, Shiro Conference this year was absolutely amazing. So, for those of you who have not heard about it, in a moment, Tara's gonna be able to share with us how you can reach her, how you can follow her. Listen, also tell us more about your book. Where can we find this book, and how can we get it?
Well, my book is Love Without Walls, and you can actually get it on the Shiro. I can give you at the same time to give you Shiro information, how you get in touch with me and the book. You can go to shironetwork.com. That's shironetwork.com. And you can get the book. You can download that book. And I have another one that's called actually 31 Days of Productivity. Both of those are on there for download. So you feel free to get
Awesome.
those. And of course, even if anybody, I'll come and come to their events and actually share about the book, because it actually deals with how God moves beyond our boxes. That's what the book is about. Love
Awesome.
Without Walls, how God moves beyond our boxes. So that is available, and I would love to really. I talk about just this the thing of like coming outside of the box, like how, I had a hard time with that. How could God use me outside of the traditional way? And so thank you, Tiara. She put it on the
Thank you.
sheroetwork.com/books. See, she corrected me. That's so sweet. She's so good. That's my daughter.
She is sweetie.
Yeah, thank you so much. But yeah, I love it. And we do have something, and we didn't talk about it, but on that same website, on the same, that we do have learn grant writing from a grant maker on that book is also there for download. Mm.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm telling you, we have been so blessed today. We're not finished yet, but
Nope.
we've been so blessed today because what I want to point out to many of our viewers is this. These women, if you notice through their interviews, they all have multiple streams of income. There are multiple streams of
Hallelujah.
income. Listen, listen. For those of you, you're still sitting on your couch saying, Lord, when am I supposed to start this business? Lord, when am I supposed to write this book? Lord, when am I supposed? Now, the Lord says now.
Oh,
Listen, get moving, start executing, start writing, start recording. Listen, kick fear out of the door. So Tara, what would you say to someone that just has kind of been procrastinating about it, and they really just want to step forward, and they want to step out on faith, but that fear just kind of holds them back? What do you say to that person?
it's so amazing you said that, Sean, because today I actually wrote, and I was trying to pull it up because it's amazing you say this. But today I actually, let me tell you what I just wrote in my private time. It says it's hard to be big when you're thinking so small.
Wow.
It's hard to be creative when you're bitter within. Stop covering your fear and heal from inside. You're missing too much by walking in your pride. Take a time to make a change. You can't stay the same. And let me
Wow.
just say, I was working on some lyrics for a song, but let me say that I heard it wasn't my own thinking, but somebody else said it's hard to be big when little got you. And you really can't, it's hard, and fear makes us think about, I'm saying, like, that we're so small, that we're not good enough, and all of these things. And to be honest with you, time is just, you just said it, Pastor Sean, your time is now.
Yes.
A song I wrote called, "This is your time. Your time is here. Your time is now. That dash is going on.
Yes.
That dash is happening. And when I'm looking up, I mean, you remember, and I know I'm really dating myself with church songs, but y'all remember the song that said, count the years as months,
Yes.
months as weeks, count the weeks as days, because it said days, because any day now we're going home. And, I'm looking at March of 2024. I'm like,
Mhm.
how did we get to the end?
Yes.
How did we get to, yeah, so I don't think we have time to waste. I don't think we have time for fear. To be honest with you,
Absolutely.
I don't have think we have time for procrastination. Again, I go back to what would happen if we don't move? What would
My
happen if we
goodness.
don't? So sometimes that we want it perfect, and we wanted this and we wanted that. And Sean, I'm learning right now. I'm the queen of perfectionism, but I really have to. I got to get out there, child. I have to do what
That's right.
I
That's
have to do
right.
what I have to do, because the world is waiting on me. The world is
Yes.
waiting on us, and we really have to do it. So we really cannot be all of who God called us when we're thinking,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
yeah, like, oh my God, what happens if they see I don't have enough this or I don't have enough that? But
I
yeah.
tell you, one of the coaches that I had a few years ago when I really first started learning the digital platform and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and it has always stuck with me, and he still recites it, and it got me out of my box. And that is, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect, because once it's done, you can still evolve it. You can go back, you can tweak
Yeah.
it, you can change it. Just get it done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then, listen, you can go back and make it better. And that got me out of my box of perfection, because I was like, oh, it's not good enough. Oh, what if somebody what? God ordained it. And
Right.
finally, I got that through my head, that if God ordained it, it's already perfect.
Yeah. And I think too, I went through a life challenge. I went to a health challenge some years back. And it just really changed, because it really changed my mindset about time.
Mhm.
Because at that time, I thought I had time.
Right.
And all of a sudden, here I am with a diagnosis. And all of the things that I wanted to do and procrastinating to do and things like that, then all of a sudden, all of that kind of got like, what? Like every day is precious. Every
Yes.
day is precious. It's something about trouble. Trouble has a way of making you see things differently.
Yes.
And so when I went through that crisis, it really changed how I look at life. And I'm not trying to say nearly that I don't struggle through those
Hmm.
days of wanting to be perfect before I get it done. But I really can tell you that I look back and say, what would have happened if we hadn't have went to Broad Street.
Wow.
And one of the men right now, he became a speaker for the this housing program that helped him to get a house.
Wow.
One of the men is that we served is a manager at a furniture store.
Wow.
Another lady that we served went on to get her high school diploma, her GED actually, as well as an associate from Delgado. All of her children now have graduated high
My
school.
goodness.
All of her children have graduated high school. They were all in a shelter.
Mm.
And what would have happened? I mean, how much, when you think about Christian women in business, I see, we're
Yes.
not talking about anybody doing business. We're
That's
talking
right.
about people that know God. They
Yes.
have a God assignment. How do you say no to a God assignment? How
Yes.
do and so we start thinking about, man, somebody's life is connected to my yes.
Hmm.
Somebody's
Hmm.
healing is connected to my yes. Somebody's marriage is connected to my yes. It's not just my money involved. It is somebody else's prosperity, somebody else's wealth. And you start saying, well, God, and he said, well, come on. I was hungry.
Okay.
You didn't feed me.
Yes.
I was thirsty. You didn't give me nothing
Mm.
to drink. I needed financial relief,
Yes.
and you refused to come out your house.
Yes.
you know,
So
we
true.
don't want that, and so, that's kind of like, that's one of the reasons that I got kind of like back and even to grant writing and things like that, because I was like, I had this ability, right? And then,
Yes.
I got to use it. I can't just sit on it and be like, no, I don't want to do that. I used to
Right.
do that. Use
Right.
everything God
So
gave
you
me,
just
everything.
you are just amazing, because There's so many different facets to Tara Alexander. Now you're talking about grant writing.
Oh,
So there's so much that you do. Are you just writing in a particular sector or certain type of organizations you help, or is that? How does that work?
Um, you know what? I really love, I'll be honest with you, and it actually it's the same thing. It's just a different expression of the same thing. I love empowering communities. I love empowering people. And so I by necessity, I'll say that by necessity, I had to write grants when I first started. By necessity. But my mom actually was my first place, and I think I told you this some time ago. My mom was the first. My mom worked at Tulane School of Business. And so, you get it, so my mom would do free grant writing classes for the
Wow.
community. And I'm a teenager. And so I had to go and support my mom. So I sat in
Yes.
classes and I made it all the way through, never knowing that I would one day,
Right.
pick it up. And I wrote them. And so when I started my nonprofit some years ago, I needed grants to be able
Mhm.
to scale it, because I was
Right.
doing 12 kids and 20 kids. But when I got grants, I was able to scale it up to 500 kids in 4 sites, where I only had one site when I started. But,
Right.
I was able to do that.
Amazing.
So from that, now I do write grants and contracts with like to help people get them. But I really do that not necessarily for a certain sector, but I
Hmm.
will say that I really like to do things that agree with my with the things that I believe that are important to the Lord, regardless if it doesn't have to be a faith-based grant, but it needs to
Yes.
something where we're empowering communities, where we really do
Yes.
good for the community. And I really things I really believe in. And yeah, so I do them. And
Wow.
I have a that's part of Frontline. It's the community development portion of Frontline. And we do love to do that. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm so glad you're here to mention what it's all about and how important it is that you believe in what you write grants for. Because, and it's a little disturbing for me sometimes when I'm scrolling social media and we're looking at all these different, business coaches and these different people on the internet that are empowering other people. And it's a little disturbing for me because a lot of times they're promoting grants as if it's just something for them to get the money personally,
No.
and that's not what a grant is for. Can you give us clarity on what a grant is actually for?
Yeah, when they grant you something, just like, grace, when they grant you something, I give you grace, right? Or I grant
Yes.
you something. I have a specific purpose. There's
Hmm.
always a bottom line tied to the grant. So there's a way that you have to use the funds. That's what you put down that you would do. And in turn, you have to give a return on investment. They invest in your organization, your vision, or whatever it is that you want to do for community. I love how I think it was Adrian Blanco at Shiro said, you partner with whoever that agency is so that they can do this good in the world.
Wow.
So we partner with whoever that is. They give you the money to do it, and you do it. And I think that when we start thinking about the dollar that we want to get, and not thinking about the purpose, that's where the thing comes in. You
That's
don't
a
get a grant for
problem.
X amount. No, you can do X amount X, and for that, this is where the money
Yes.
comes in. And I
Yes.
think that we have to put the mission first, and I think the nonprofit sector has gotten that right. And we got to catch up, because it's not hustling so that you can't bring up the poverty mentality in that space
Yes.
where, I'm trying to get 400,000. I have clients and I'll be honest with you, I have clients that have gotten everything from, we've gotten grants, everything from 5,000 to 7 figures. And that is a blessing, but it's the who that grant that was 7 figures plus one of the grants
Yes.
we did. Um, that grant provided 100 jobs,
Wow. That was
100
amazing.
jobs into the community.
Right.
So when we think about the why is so
Yes.
big. The why is so big. So what happens is God blesses us that people come alongside us. They believe in our why and
Yes.
and our what, and we gotta deliver on that. So I think it's important, and I will, any day you want to talk even deeper about that, we could.
Yes, I would love to. We'll have to do that.
Yeah, because I really would love people to start understanding. A lot of people can advertise about grants. The question is, have they gotten them?
That's true.
The question is, have they been successful at it? And the
Mm,
question is, are they following the rules and the guidelines that won't get us in trouble later for
yes.
using it incorrectly?
That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you so. I'm just floored with all the different levels of wisdom that God has given you. You know,
Thank
a-
you.
and I just truly believe that when God, he tests us on every level to see how much he can trust us. And when he figures he can trust us in one thing, he begins to open other doors to other things. And it's just been phenomenal to hear you, to hear your story today, to hear about all the wonderful, wonderful things that you are doing, not just locally, not just nationally, but internationally. We have got to have you back just to talk to us about it. You're full of so many stories that I know will inspire us, inspire our community. And I know, y'all, I'm in awe. I'm in awe. I'm in
Thank
awe with this interview as well as the ones that we've done with all of the women that we've done this week. It has been absolutely eye opening and breathless for me because we sit among all of you and we don't know all the different facets. And so I want to thank you for coming on today. I don't want to end it there. How do we reach you? How do we follow you? If someone needs your services, how do we get to you?
Well, you can actually, I'm gonna actually at CTR, you can actually reach me at that Shiro conference, I mean ShiroNetwork.com. You can reach me right there just to make life easy. You can reach me at ShiroNetwork.com. There is a contact page and everything on there. You can feel free to reach out to me for any of those services, and I will definitely contact you back. Of course, we are I'm just honored that you would have me. And I think it's important. Thank you, Sean, because I think it's so important that we do understand that as women of faith, we look at that proverbial woman. She was bad to the bone.
yes.
She was not a one-hit wonder. She did all kinds of things.
yes.
But I think that sometimes people can think, you have different businesses or different streams, that you're confused. And it's
Mhm.
not that we're confused, it's just that we need those layers to make us who we are, and that God has just gifted us all differently. And being a mother and being a wife, of course, I love those above all. Being a mother and a wife, we know how to multitask. And I'm not saying that we do it to the detriment, but we learn how to be different things at the same time. And so I'm excited about that, and I'm honored that you would take the time out to pour
Oh.
into us like you do, because you challenge me, and I love that, because sometimes you can get to doing all of these things and you forget to be challenged. And so thank you so much for providing this space for us to learn about women of faith who are doing good things. And thank you so much for being that person.
Oh, I thank God for you. And I'm gonna steal your thunder a little bit because I want you to tell us how awesome your daughter is, Tiara, and what her recent accomplishment has been.
Oh,
I gotta have her on too. Tell her
oh,
she
wow.
can't hide behind the curtain,
No,
okay?
no, she can't hide anymore. But
No.
I am so proud of all of this. I will, and I want to give honor to my daughter, but I got to give honor. Thank you, Tiara, for putting that. He keep helping me out. Thank you for putting that on there. I want to give honor. My mother, and I'm going to say this. My mother is from Waterproof, Louisiana, and my mother wanted an education, and she ran away and came to New Orleans.
Wow.
And at 15 years old, she at her school, they would have to leave at 12 o'clock, and she would have to they would he have to leave. They would have to go to school half day and pick cotton the other half day. My mama ran away when she was 15 and came,
Wow.
eventually graduating from Booker T. And then she
Mm,
went to Tulane and graduated in sociology and psychology. And
mm.
I am the generation between my mother and my daughter. And so my daughter just finished her PhD at LSU. She's a doctor of philosophy and social work.
Yes.
And I am so proud of her because we went from picking cotton to getting a doctor. So we
Come on,
excited.
come on, come on, come on, somebody.
Come
Praise
on.
God.
That's Cora's granddaughter. And so it's an exciting thing, really, to be honest with you, for all of us. And so, yeah, now what she does is her research was on family connectedness. And
Wow.
so she is teaching families and doing and creating interventions on how to bring families together. And one of the ways that she does it is in the kitchen too. And she calls herself the social worker in the kitchen. So yeah,
Oh,
hmm
how amazing is that?
that's God. Oh, it's
I know
all
my
God.
sister's probably over there saying yes, because that's what she is, a social
That's
worker in the kitchen.
yes. That's
How
her.
amazing is that?
Mhm.
Well, we want to thank God for you once again, woman of God, just opening your heart to us, being transparent today. Listen, giving us the inspiration we need to keep going, right? And doing the different things. We're not confused.
Not confused.
We're not confused with all these different things that we do. If you're like me, people tell me all the time, you're doing too much.
Mm-mm.
God wants me to.
Mm-mm. We're not
So,
confused. We're convicted. We're not confused.
oh,
We're
I love that.
convicted.
I love
Yeah,
that. I
we
love
got to
that.
do it.
Yes, we're not confused. We're convicted. I love that. I love that. So I want to thank you for being on. Thank you for being part of our great community. And I want to inspire so many of you who are watching even now. Listen, contact me. I keep saying this all week. I need you all to listen. It's time for God to place you in the forefront of your life and listen and shine the light on what you're doing and the great things that you are doing, the books you are writing, and the people you are helping. And I don't care who you are, what facet of work that you do. You could be a housewife raising your kids. Listen, God wants to shine the light on you, and we do too. So I want to thank God once again for Tara Alexander of the Frontline and so many other things. And one other thing, Tara, I'm not going to let you go until you say this. And where are you on Sundays?
On Sundays. Oh my God. Yes. Sundays, we do a 1:30 to 4:30. We do a special inspo soul set, I call it, at Frontier Landing Restaurant. I'll let Tiara put it in the chat. Frontier Landing Restaurant on Sunday. So if you want to come somewhere that's really fun for your family, right on Lake Pontchartrain, it's really, really a lot of fun. You can go for a date day, or you can bring your whole family. But
Oh,
our whole
nice.
family is there on Sundays. Not this Sunday, but on the other Sundays. This Sunday we're at 6 a.m. for a sunrise service we do on the lake, which I love. But
Oh,
every other Sunday we are there at 1:30. Thank you.
awesome.
No
Awesome.
live music for the community. Mhm.
All right. So just wanted to let you know that, you guys. So of course, I want y'all to go to sheronetwork.com/contact us. That's how you can contact her. And even on that platform, you can find her book and you can get in touch with her. And listen, all things God and all things women in business. We love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Until our next interview. Bye now. Thank you, Tyra.